Hello, friends. I'm Hector. I'm back on the saddle to talk about conspiracy and psychology. It's been quite a ride for a couple of days, been working a lot. And I want to turn your attention to the latest conspiracy that everyone is engaged and focused on. As you may already be aware, I am talking about the Wayfair trafficking child scandal that is taking a storm in TikTok and on Twitter. In essence, so goes the conspiracy theory that they are children being trafficked by pedophiles using publicly available platforms such as Wayfair, Etsy, and other platforms such as that overpriced items that have the names of missing children. And so the inference here is that they're being advertised taking some form either in pillow or painting, and they have a specific brand and type and vendor and ratings, so it would be like a regular average item. However, the difference is that it's so overpriced it doesn't seem reasonable, and there's something fishy and suspicious about that, and it also happens to be in various different forms, and so it has gotten the attention of a lot of people. And I could go deeper into this, but there's a insightful message I like to bring back by stepping before entering into the conspiracy in general, because we get lost in the details. Sometimes we all want to look at it because it's happening and everyone's talking about it. There must be some fire if there's smoke, right? Anyway, what would you rather do? My question is, what would you rather do? Spend your time delving into these crumbs of possible truths, or monstrous conspiracies, crumbs, fetch your way through every little clue until you discover the ultimate conspiracy? Or would you rather sit down away from all the fanaticism of the trendiness? And I don't like to say it this way, but a lot of people use conspiracy theories as bubblegum. They chew it, they occupy their time and their mouth with it, and then they move on to the next thing. And we forget about what is happening in the bigger picture. So I like to talk about the bigger picture, and talking about conspiracy and psychology. The conspiracy of sex trafficking is very real and it's very true, and it's been ongoing for a very long time. And there are platforms like Twitter that for some reason they don't allow political speech of some kind, but they don't busy their time banning or banning pedophiles. And I've talked about this in a show with Jeremiah Harding. The question was, how prevalent is pedophilia in public platform and in social media? That's an episode that I would like for you to take your time and watch if you're interested in that topic. But let's look at this book that I have here before your screen. And it's from Fiona Barnett, Eyes Wide Open, in reference to the movie Eyes Wide Shut. We all know, if you've done the conspiracy research, you understand the Eyes Wide Shut is a movie that in some allegorical form can be deduced to hint at secret societies that are trafficking in children and are sacrificing supermodels and all this other stuff. It's an amazing movie. And however, the real deeper story behind the motif of hyper intelligent and super wealthy and super connected, all in quotation, of course, if you believe that they are super intelligent because they are rich, or they're super intelligent because they're politically connected, and it's all a matter of perception. But the point here is that there is some royalty class, some celebrity class, some highly powerful political class that interconnects in different social gatherings, fraternities, groupings, and events in which they partake in nefarious activities. And because they are depraved by they're jaded by power, or they just are looking to blackmail one another, or just to experiment the boundaries of human morality, take your pick, whichever explanation you like, they end up exploiting innocent victims. They might be male, they might be female, they might be young, they might be old, they might be infirm, they might be healthy, they might be black, they might be brown, they might be white, of all shapes and colors and persuasions. So this trafficking conspiracy, it doesn't have to be where a bunch of people get together and they make calls and make plans. It just happens to be that there is an evil in humanity which likes to exploit the most innocent among us. And they are prevalent individuals, and usually sometimes they might be the closest people to us, or the furthest from us. You know, it could be the stranger, or it could be that friendly family member who's very touchy and feely and very close to the children. You know, it can take many forms. However, the other thing of organized sex trafficking of an underground criminal type, it is very real. That is also very real. However, we need to deduce it, conceptualize it, and actually use our reason and pursue these underlying truths instead of spending a lot of time watching what everyone is doing on TikTok or on Twitter. And, you know, because that is not something that is fruitful. And it's a good premiere if you've already understand that there are powerful pedophiles that are making political games come about and really destroy society. That's one premiere, but let's go down to the deeper, grittier things. Let's do our personal homework. And on this book, Eyes Wide Open, if you could look at the contents, it has very heavy hitting topics. And it's not just your average, you know, oh, look at them, they're satanic, they're bad. No, it gives you the philosophical, psychological, and actual mainstream events and cover-ups. So if I haven't heard about all this highly sophisticated sex trafficking, it must be untrue. It must be unreal. That's an appeal to ignorance. You know, that's not true, reasonable argument. If you look at the historical events that have happened in the last 20 to 30 years, bare minimum, you understand that there is an incentive by police and different people who are politically connected to cover up big pedophile scandals. And it happens from the Vatican. It happens, there's major cases such as the one in Belgium, you know, where a bunch of people in the entire country almost overthrew the whole political machinery because they discovered that it was not only one single case of one depraved person kidnapping children and leaving them in dungeons, but also this person who was procuring kids and building dungeons under his basement, under his room. He was also procuring those children to political high-ranking officials. And so we can go deeper and deeper into this, but I recommend this book, and I will leave the link in the description so that you can follow up. And it reads very logical, very left-leaning, very left-leaning. So there's evidence, there's facts, there's all this stuff that you can do, but at the same time, I mean, that you can look into. At the same time, you have to use your intuition. So let's use our intuition. What should we spend our time fruitfully? There are some real conspiracies. There are some real things happening. And what happens if the evil that is so prevalent understands human psychology and uses fictitious rabbit holes, or very spicy, very juicy rabbit holes, and presents it to the public or lets it slide, and we get distracted from the other things that are happening? You know, while Ghislaine Maxwell, she has been denied bail. One other aspect, while, you know, she has been arrested and found in New Hampshire, taking a step back from the news, every single day something new happens. So there must be a new distraction that keeps us completely focused on other things. And the distraction that I am talking about here is Judge rules Virginia Giuffre's lawyers must destroy Jeffrey Epstein's files. Attorneys for Virginia Giuffre, who publicly accused Jeffrey Epstein of sex trafficking, must destroy files they obtained on Epstein after a Wednesday ruling by a federal judge. Epstein was arrested in July 2019 on charges of sex trafficking and conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking. Allegedly, Epstein procured women to have sexual relations with profile individuals, such as Prince Andrew. Information about Epstein culled from a 2015 civil lawsuit filed against Epstein by Giuffre. Okay, so there is a lot of evidence, and Ghislaine Maxwell also has it. There's articles that mention that she might have more than she lets on. And so that is on the underslide of what is happening with the case of Jeffrey Epstein, who did not commit suicide, but also now everyone takes it for granted, or everyone is making the joke. Here's that meme that is following up, underlying the point that I'm trying to make. There's just so many windows open, but people already suspect that the pedophile death cult is going to murder Ghislaine Maxwell. And they know the media is going to cover it up, but they still think their vote counts. So the whole conspiracy. What was the big picture with the Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell conspiracy? Well, it depends on who you ask, and depends on what your political persuasion is. If you're a Republican, you're only going to think that the Democrats are involved in all this mess. You're not going to say that there are other parts and parcels that are in your own party. And we can talk about the Franklin scandal, the Franklin cover-up, and that's one documentary everyone needs to see. And you could totally see that the Republican Party is also involved in some way in their history or presently in the sexual exploitation of sexual trafficking victims. It's a long history of abuse, but if we just get caught up in the trends and what everyone else is saying, we're not going to contextualize it. We're going to get caught up in the fanaticism of the trendiness of the latest conspiracy. Maybe this is true. Maybe this is happening right before our eyes, and it's just so prevalent and so evil that it has manifested in the weirdest place. Maybe that is true. However, that doesn't necessarily teach you anything new that you didn't already assume, okay? And so the issue or the angle that I'm talking here, psychological angle. For the longest time, the word conspiracy theorist was used to bash or to stop any criticism of authority figures when there was a conflicting or something didn't make sense. Things didn't connect. And then there was people who questioned based on skepticism, common sense, rational skepticism and healthy active listening skills can do wonders. There's one thing that George Carlin says, one thing I don't do, I follow one rule and one rule. And that is I never believe whatever the government is telling me, not one single thing. That's kind of the same thing now that this country needs more of, but because of all the bashing of this so-called conspiracy theorists who are being confirmed. I'll tell you, I've been doing this for years. It doesn't make me a handsome, popular person. It just makes me one of those crazy, ugly-looking people who say all the weirdest thing at the wrong time. Well, these politicians, they are blackmailed by Mossad agents, and they're not the only secret intelligence that is using the exploitation of vulnerable victims to blackmail other powerful politicians. No, it's a part and parcel with all the secret intelligence, revolutionary groups, and the royalty. Oh my God, there are so many levels to this. So let's fast forward to the psychological angle. What am I talking about? If you want to go into it deeper, I recommend Spiro's report on this. Refuse to social distance. New study says you may be a psychopath. So there's so many more angles to that. But the article that he refers, I saw it too myself some days ago, and I was doing some consideration, some real meditation on what it means for this, because I've been writing about this for a couple of months back. I've taken a hiatus from writing, but I'm not going to give you an illustration of the past. Let me just surmise what I've wrote. There's this new development based on the pathology of fear, the power of nightmares, is creating this automated monstrosity. And what I mean with automated monstrosity is that once irrational thought takes a hold of a crowd and of a collective, and it's the popular belief, or it is seemingly the popular belief, it will cause unintended consequences. By unintended consequences is that irrational behavior does not predict its own demise. It doesn't. It masquerades as control, and it creates this fetish over its control. And this fetish of control, it symbolized by the mask enforcement, it really shows that you are muscled, that you have been psychologically atomized. You've been completely removed from yourself. You no longer have the freedom of speaking your own uniqueness. Okay, so that's my own conclusion based on the psychological research and all this. But okay, so if I'm saying this, what are the mainstream established medical experts, psychological experts saying? Well, the study that I'm referring to here is the psychopathic traits linked to non-compliance with social distancing guidelines amid the coronavirus pandemic. You're welcome to read this article. And in essence, the article is saying early in the pandemic and in subsequent months, there were numerous reports of individuals purposefully coughing, spitting, or even licking door handles in public, either in a way to intimidate others or as a way to rebel against emerging new norms of social distancing and hygiene. Emerging new norms promoted by the World Health Organization and dutifully reported as again, as the law, as by the CDC and many other governmental organizations. It just so happens to be in collaboration with each other because it's a rational argument and they all believe it. Of course, my sarcasm aside, I'm really trying to make this short and sweet to the point, but here is something that we need to talk about. The main objective is to make us feel crazy, and so that we get checked into a position where we're going to lash out and act irrationally like everyone else. I don't know about you. I don't wear a mask in public. I've done the research. However, I am not going to take other people's feelings or emotions about the idea of this simulation of pandemic as something to toy with, frustrate them, anger them, or I'm not going to go out and cough on people and spit on people. But this anecdotal evidence used in this article is part of their whole argument that there are some people who get off in pushing the boundaries, and the whole psychology behind it is like, well, these are psychopaths. What happened in Soviet Russia? It was mental illness to go against the government. This is a different flavor of Soviet America. This is something new happening, but it's been brewing for generations. And this pathology, the power of nightmares, we've totally lost control of our common sense. And now society is expressing that irrationality in unexpected ways. And the psychological professionals are telling us that we're the crazy ones for pointing out how things don't make sense and how Jeffrey Epstein can commit suicide while being in a very high max security facility, and all the files will be deleted and the people who were involved will probably not be in any way prosecuted. And yes, we can hope for every other day that maybe Prince Andrew faces the law, but let's just be realistic and really do the research, or else we're going to have our attention hijacked by all this, nonstop whack-a-mole conspiracy. Again, it's not saying that this cannot be true, that this cannot happen. This could be possibly another Pizzagate, just to keep us in a cul-de-sac of thought and endlessly go nowhere. And it will just be used to blackmail us into thinking we're freaking crazy. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm only telling you, look, the roadmap here is to check you in a position where you physiologically respond with anger, righteous indignation, and then you turn against yourself and others. The whole thing is to be wise as serpents, gentle as lambs, but wise as serpents. So the wisdom here of this evil demonic patterns of control and personal opinion, of course, this is not something for me to give you a freaking costume here, is that now that the conspiracy is so in your face that the simulation or the Hollywood machinery has to reinvent the prophetic literary works of the past. I've said this in the past, and a couple of moments ago, privately and to other people. The Brave New World model of totalitarian control is the real way forward. The Orwellian 1984 was a transition to the Brave New World. And in the Brave New World, the movie, the old one, they really expressed a lot of the things that were in the movie or in the book of Brave New World. And those expressions were basically our own entertainment is addictive, but it also allows us to accept conditions that we normally wouldn't. And that entertainment can take many forms and can be drugs, it could be sex, it could be so many other things. But essentially, this operant conditioning, because the state is allowing us to pursue unconventional lifestyles. It may not seem like that at the beginning, at the onset. While this transitioning is happening, we're experiencing the Orwellian repression. The police brutality, all these other surveillance cameras, the double speak, all of that is part of it, all right? But now we're entering into the fourth industrial revolution, the Brave New World technology is here, artificial wombs and all of that comes with it. So powering through all this, being in the Brave New World, what does it mean? Well, we have the new show coming up, and the latest show will tell us what it will mean. So instead of hoping to get caught up on the bigger picture of the Brave New World, I recommend you read the book and then check out the differences in the series that they're promoting this time around. Because if you know that they have high-ranking celebrities, and then if they have something like this, there is going to be some funny business, or maybe they'll tell us the truth right in front of our eyes and we are not going to recognize it. I just implore people to first read the source material, or to make an attempt to go outside of what everyone else is reading and researching and read a book so that you can understand it better for yourself, and then make a better plan of action when dealing or talking with people. Because effectively, my whole message of what I am thinking of really talking about more and more is how to kung fu conspiracy, meaning we don't have to prove every single conspiracy. The time for that has happened already. The clarity that we have when we see other people wearing masks and bullying other people and turning against natural human engagement, that is a type of clarity that we would have loved 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 years ago. Because 20 to 30 years ago, we didn't know. We didn't know if other people believed in the greater truth, in that this material condition was not just the only thing that we can experience. Those things were hearsay. Those are fanatical. Nowadays, there's just so much more open-mindedness about it. However, we must be cautious that not to be blinded by the light. Not to be blinded by the light. That's a good last phrase to end this conversation. I hope that this was an insightful conversation and that you took something from this. If not, oh well, you didn't waste time. You probably skipped forward. Until then, this is your friend Hector Combo, wishing you the best and keeping it real as always. Until then, bye-bye.